everyone, this is Mary from Athena's Bibliotheca, and today I'm going to do an end of the year TBR. There's only like 2 months left in the year. Hopefully I read a lot in the coming months so I can get all these plus some extras if I can. But these are just a list of 10 books that I would like to prioritize and get done before the end of the year. I'm not going to be too strict with myself about it because I know myself. My feelings about which books I want to read change from one day to the next. Can never really pin down what my brain wants to read. I tried to order it into the ones from least want to read to most want to read. So the further we get in the list, the more likely I'm going to read it as soon as possible. And I do have one that I pre-ordered on the list. But other than that, they're all books I already own a copy of. Or a copy is coming to me already. One of the two. I've only put 10 books on the list. So let's start with the first one I'm going to talk about. The first book on the end of the year TBR is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. I read the fine print at the beginning of the year, which is the first book in the series, and I really had a fun time reading it. And then I bought this book, and I haven't picked it up yet, but I've had it for quite a while. I am really excited to pick this up and learn more about the Kane brothers. I really enjoyed seeing the different aspects of the Dreamland. I'm excited to know more about Dreamland in this, along with seeing the relationship develop since it's a romance. The next book on my list is The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I've had this book on my TBR for so long, so very long. Everything I've heard about this book makes me super excited to read it, and hopefully in the next 2 months I will have read it. Then Jade Fired Gold by June C.L. Tan is the next book I'm adding to this list. This is actually the Fairy Loot edition of it. So this is the original cover. So to compare the two, just happened, someone was selling books on Instagram and this happened to be on it and she was selling it for cheap. And so I grabbed it because I don't really know much about this book, except I've heard a lot of people compare it, or not recently, but in the past, I've heard a lot of people compare it to Avatar: The Last Airbender. If Zuko and Aang, if Aang was a girl, had a relationship. And you don't need to say any more for me to want to read this. And then I'm going to add Eragon by Christopher Paolini to the list. This one is an old one. A lot of people have already read it. I would say that this book is been on my TBR for a while, but it hasn't been on my physical TBR until these past couple months because I know that the newest book, Mortag, is coming out, and I was like, I feel like this is a good time to start reading it, so I'd really like to get to this series. The only book I don't have of the series now is Eldest, which is funny because it's the second book. So after I read this and I really want the second one, I can't continue even though I had the third and the fourth book. So this is on the list. Then we have Anastasia by Sophie Lark. I was super excited because I was following the author while she was promoting this book. Every time she talked about this book, I was super excited for when it came out so I could read it. I even purchased my copy the day it came out, and I still haven't read it because I just got intimidated by the sheer size of this thing. Look at this thing, it's a chunker. In retrospect, it's only 656 pages. I mean, that's a lot, but I read Kingdom of Ash, and it's really not even that long because there's a lot of pictures throughout the story as well. Hopefully, I will get it done. You and I, we're holding each other to it, right? I'm getting this done. Then we got Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I don't know anything about it except for the title and how gorgeous this cover is. I love anything to do with fairies. Got that going for me. Actually, already got plans for when I'm going to read this, so this one's probably going to be done pretty soon. And I'm super excited. Okay, this next one, I've put it on several of my TBRs before. I've hyped it up in my head so much that I don't know how it could ever compare to what I think it's going to be like, and that's Iron Widow. I barely know anything about this, except I'm super hyped for it. I know vaguely of some things that are going on. I know there's mechas in it, and there's a war, and female vengeance, basically. But that's pretty much all I need to know, but I'm so hyped for this book whenever I convince myself to push through and read it all. When I say push through, I just get like nervous reading this book. Like it's not gonna live up to this hype I have for it in my head. And that scares me. And one day I will finish this. And if it's not 5 stars, I'm gonna be devastated. This next book I have on this TBR, I put on it because of a comparison like I did for Jade, Fire, Gold. But this comparison is for Sailor Moon, Zhara by S.J. Jones. This is another one that I'm going in pretty much blind. I like going into books with as little amount of information as possible, so then I will be surprised by everything, because I like that. As soon as I know enough about a book that I'm like, okay, I want to read that, I don't want to know anything else. Like, I don't need to know anything else. And with this one, all I needed to know is the comparison to Sailor Moon, and they had me hooked, and I need to read this. I bought it. I just need to read it. Okay, so the next 2 books, I don't actually have physical copies for them, so I'm just gonna put a picture of them up here. The next one is going to be Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, Volume 9. I love this series with my whole being. It is so good, and I love it a lot. If you don't know about this series, the first one follows a elf after this big journey that she goes on with this group of heroes that defeated the Demon King. And this is what she has to go through after those events happened and what she does now. And it's so good. I love it so much. It is definitely a series that you're going to cry or you're going to feel a lot of emotions with. It is also a series that if you are not a character-driven person, I don't think you would like it as much. I love the characters in the stories, and I'm definitely a character-driven person. That's why I love it so much. But there's kind of an overarching plot, but in reality, there's not very much plot in this story. It's very much about the characters and their emotional development, if that makes sense. And I adore it. I'm just forewarning you for those people who need a lot of plot. This is not really that type of story. But I love it so much, and I do recommend it. I haven't got a copy of this, but it is on its way to me right now, and I'm super excited to get to it. And finally, the last one is going to be just no surprise to anyone, I don't think, because this book is super hyped at the moment, and that is the sequel to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, Iron Flame. Do I know anything about it besides what I know about Fourth Wing? No, I don't need to know anything. I don't go into sequels. Like, once I read the first one, I don't need to know what the sequel is about. But if you're living under a rock and don't know what Fourth Wing is about, it's about a girl named Violet who's been training her life to go into this thing that's called the Scribe Quadrant, which is basically the people that write down the history of their country. Leading up to the entering of these quadrants, her mom is like, actually, you're not doing that. I'm going to force you to go into the Writer's Quadrant, which is people that learn how to fly dragons. Everyone is pretty sure she's going to die, but Violet has her ways. And it's awesome. And I love it so very much. So if you like dragons, and if you like having a fun time, I would suggest picking it up. Is there a lot of people that have valid criticisms to this book? Yes, there are. Do I care what they say? No, I don't. So, Iron Flame comes out in November, and I'm super excited. As soon as I get it, I am going to be reading it that day. I don't care what's going on. I'll be like, canceling plans left and right so I can read this book. I'm super excited about it, as you can tell. So that is the last book that's going to be on my priority TBR for the end of the year. Hopefully you found some books that sounds interesting to you. I know I'm not the best at explaining books because I don't like knowing a lot about books when I go into them. Hopefully you had fun. I am going to go now, and I might see you again next week, but I make no promises.